Hello? Well, hello, folks. I've got something for you here. We've got some work by the Warrior Teacher Cathy. As well as that, we have others involved in this particular shenanigans, which come from a council meeting. Without further ado, let's have a look and see what happens when the wrong people are given power. In this case, the Liberal Democrats. But you let me know what you think and watch together, and then we can talk it through where necessary.
Please don't hurry, it's fine. I'm not expecting you to sprint from the back to the front. Okay, so you've asked question 2 there and you've had a response. Do you have a supplementary question to ask?
I have. Is my microphone on? Yes. Excellent, we're winning then. I asked a question about single-sex toilets and changing rooms, specifically in the context of people claiming a transgender identity using the single-sex spaces of the opposite sex. The response that I've had has come back and said that single-sex spaces will continue to be provided both generally and at the Broad Meadow Leisure Centre. And that's all well and good as far as it goes, but the other document that you sent to me with the email was the Transgender Access Guidance, which sets out that a person claiming a transgender identity is allowed to use whichever facility they feel comfortable with. I do not feel comfortable sharing a changing room or a toilet facility with a man, however he identifies, and I feel that this is not...
Can I just ask you, I understand that you feel strongly on this. I have looked at the Equality Act 2010, which provides a legal framework to protect the rights of individuals and advance equality of opportunity, and we are talking about a protected characteristic.
Yes, and sex is also a protected characteristic.
I understand you feel strongly about it. I'm asking for a supplementary question.
Yes, and I'm coming to my question.
Can we just ask the question? Because I'm very aware that we're talking about a protected characteristic.
Yes, and sex is also a protected characteristic, and that is the one that is being ignored. So my supplementary question is, I also included the 75-page advice of Karen Monaghan KC, which was in the matter of the Brighton and Hove City Council Trans-Inclusion Schools Toolkit, where she sets out at section 3.5 of her advice the reasons why permitting people to choose to use the single-sex facilities of the opposite sex is in breach of a number of laws, and I would like you to reassure me that you are going to actually look at the law or get some legal advice so that women are not subjected to men in their changing rooms and their toilets.
So can I just, so I'll just stop you there for a second. Your question is, can you be assured that the council will be looking at relevant laws and cases to ensure people are protected?
At this particular law.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Interesting, isn't it? Well, so far so good, one would say, perhaps. I don't think it's so far so good at all. I think the lady sat there pompously pontificating has an agenda. What do you think? Well, we have to watch further to discover exactly what that agenda is.
Point of order, Chair. In respect of the law that you just misquoted actually, it's very clear.
Oh, what's the breach that
you've misquoted the law. You've misquoted the Equality Act of 2010.
Have it here, and it's not in the rules, so I'm not accepting your point of order.
Chair, let me finish.
So I'm coming to Councillor Nutley.
Right, there you go. There's the agenda in full flow. Councillor Andrew McGregor there raising the excellent point that actually the Equality Act is being misapplied by this particular individual who is chairing this meeting. Andrew McGregor quite right to raise that, but his particular concerns are shut down. Let's keep going.
Response to the question, please, because it's not something that's been broken, and that's what a point of order is. It's not the ability to.
You've misquoted the law. You have misquoted the law, Chair.
Point of order. If a councillor has a point of order, you let them make their point of order.
Councillor Nutley.
Completely ignores everything. This is so, it's so like these kind of bureaucratic mini dictators to behave in such a manner.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate your questions. Obviously, every precaution has been taken to, obviously, with the separate toilets that we've supplied. Many, don't matter where you go. I mean, even in the hospitals, you have unisex toilets throughout the toilets and everywhere you go. In actual fact, and I will forward this to you if you wish, there is an actual guidance for frontline staff to assist trans people to access leisure facilities. I will forward that to you if you wish, and hopefully, and obviously, along with my leisure manager or our leisure manager, we will forward you the answers in due course.
Utter rubbish. Nobody is attempting to prevent people who have adopted a false idea of who they are, who claim a trans identity, are not being excluded from the leisure centre at all. They're being told to use the changing room of their sex, rather than expect everybody to go along with their insanity.
Thank you. So we next come to Cathy Mudge.
Hello.
Cathy Mudge.
Yes, thank you.
Carry on.
I've come to ask for clarification about the questions I asked. Firstly, because I don't think you actually answered them for me. It's about...
Cathy here, Warrior Teacher, makes the point that questions that were sent in previously to the council come back with obfuscating answers. This is not rare. We see this all the time. The questions that Cathy asked, she does not feel were answered, and she's attempting here to bring that point up with her supplementary question. Let's see how this is handled by our chairperson.
Broadmeadow Sports Centre, and it's also about your transgender access guidance. Firstly, I have asked the question.
Can I just check? You've had your responses. Is this a supplementary question?
This is a supplementary question.
Okay.
Absolutely intent on controlling a narrative that she knows to be false. That's what this woman is doing. That's what she's doing. She knows that it's false, but she thinks she's got the force of the law behind her. And people wonder how atrocities happen. Carry on.
And where's the clarification of the answers that you gave me? Firstly, I asked who was doing the training and advising staff at Broadmeadow Sports Centre regarding transgender people coming in. We have concerns about the safety of women and girls in the female village changing area. I also have concerns that the staff will have to deal with this without a proper training and without knowing what they're dealing with. So I asked you what was happening with the training, and you said training will be arranged.
Interesting. So they've already got this policy in place to allow LARPing men into the men's changing room and LARPing women into the male changing room. And yet it appears that no training has been carried out at all, and particularly no training on the Equality Act, which explicitly allows for the exclusion of men from female spaces and females from male spaces.
So that's your answer. That doesn't tell me anything except that you're going to arrange training. Can you tell me who will be doing the training? Because obviously it's very difficult, because what they will have to do is they will have to decide what gender that person is presenting in. So that will be very interesting, how they will define that, how they will define it. Will it be clothes? Will it be makeup? Will it be hair? That's what I'd like to know. And also the other thing was, I said, how does the duty manager, are you going to quote the Equality Act to me, or let me finish? Let me finish my question.
First of all, I'd like you to not be rude. What actually happens
No, don't say that to me. You're interrupting all of us.
You have your questions, and then you have your questions. They are answered, and then you get the chance to come in to ask a supplementary question. What you do not have the chance to do, whilst the chair is in control of the chamber, is you do not have the chance to what seems to be attack a group of people, a particular group of people that you do not agree with.
Who the hell is she talking about? She doesn't know. I mean, that's the whole point, is she doesn't know. Who's she talking about? The word transgender isn't mentioned in the Equality Act once. And it covers gender reassignment, so that you're not discriminated against in regards to services. It doesn't mean that you get access to the spaces of sex you don't belong to and never will. It's utterly peculiar behaviour by this woman. Let's keep going.
That's not the case. So we have the evidence here that has been sent. Has this been sent back in questions? We have training in place. So you get to ask your supplementary question. That is what you get.
We have training in place. But in the question that was answered for Cathy, there was no training. I'm a bit confused as to what this woman is doing now.
Supplementary question. Okay? And if you have a problem with how that is managed and how that's run here today, it's not the time to start shouting me down. It's time you can feel quite free to make a complaint about me and how I've run.
There you go, using the system against the individuals who the system works for. So we'll obfuscate about the answers we give you, and then upon that obfuscation, I'll obfuscate even more until eventually you have to start yourself in what will be a Kafkaesque system of complaining about this woman who seems to be a rabid trans rights activist.
The meeting, that's fine, but I see it in my duty of care to protect people who are vulnerable, and I don't like
protect people who are vulnerable, right? Just because somebody's got a protected characteristic under the Equality Act doesn't make them vulnerable. But women and girls are vulnerable to men. And this woman is completely ignoring that because she has to give the holy trans, the sacred caste, what they feel they need and what she thinks she should do because she's filled with righteous cause mentality and, quite frankly, narcissistic compassion.
Like the attack that seems to be going on with some of the questions that have already been asked at this chamber.
Chair. She's not attacking anybody.
Please carry on.
She is not attacking anybody, and for you to start telling the guest speakers or the members of the public that they're doing that, this is nothing to do with trans people.
But this is a point of order, and this is how it works, which is that you haven't got permission to speak at the moment, Councillor Taylor.
The smugness of it. Well, you haven't got permission to speak at the moment. The absolute smugness of this woman. Hiding behind the bureaucracy and Kafkaesque nature of council systems in order to push forward her agenda, which is of harm to children, women, and gay and lesbian people.
Would you like to present your supplementary question?
Rosie, I would like to present my supplementary question. However, you keep interrupting me about vulnerable people. As a woman, and as a representative of women and girls, they are vulnerable and more vulnerable than a man. So please let me finish. The next part of my question is this. You said, how can I ask how the duty manager can confirm if someone is indistinguishable from someone of their preferred gender if others disagree? The reply was, individuals are entitled to participate in our facilities. Firstly, I would say I never said that a trans person could not participate in facilities. My concern is that they are participating in a fetish by going into the women's changing room as a man. That is what their participation is.
And that is exactly what I mean. So I think that's enough now.
I think that's enough now. She's like some smarmy school mom in an infant school. The simple fact of the matter is that the majority of these men, in fact, the vast majority of these men are performing a fetish. She's claiming ignorance of that. We've known this for decades. It's absolute nonsense what she's doing. Absolute nonsense. This is the exercise of power in the name of the cult.
The supplementary question is fine. What you don't get the opportunity to do is to examine every single response you've had. You get to ask a supplementary question.
Okay, well, thank you
for your time.
I'm glad this is on video because this is going to go viral.
Oh, let's hope so, eh, Kath? Let's hope so.
Okay. Right, so the next question we have is Jenny Dingsdale. And just a note to councillors, when we start using phrases like fetish towards people...
When we start using phrases like fetish towards people, which people is she talking about exactly? Who? It wasn't used towards people. It was a recognition that transvestism is a fetish, that cross-dressing is a fetish, that autogynephilia is a fetish, all of which Councillor What's-Her-Chops here is absolutely intent on pretending doesn't exist. This is Orwellian.
Regarding gender, regarding any vulnerability, protected characteristic, it's not acceptable.
Gender is not a protected characteristic, you absolute unmitigated nitwit.
And using that kind of language, it will not be tolerated in a meeting that I'm chairing.
This is a democratic forum.
Not be tolerated. It is not something that should be televised by the council.
It's not about you and your opinion.
Well said, that man. It's not about you and your opinions. Now, apparently this chap has got Tourette's. Anybody who's dealt with anybody who's got Tourette's knows that they can sometimes say things that would normally not be said. I understand she knows he's got Tourette's. Doesn't make what he says any less glorious.
It's about protecting vulnerable people.
It's not. It's a
Thank
democratic
you.
forum. It's not the police. It's not a school.
Thank you. Councillor Malone, we've spoken about this before, only in council because you haven't met with me. I'm not going to have shouting. Okay.
Well, I've got Tourette, so it's a protected characteristic, so shut the fuck up.
Shame.
You can fuck off as well.
Right, I'm adjourning for 5 minutes to allow people to cool down if that's what's needed. I'm not going to be told to shut the F up when I'm protecting a group of people.
Protecting anyone.
So we're going to take a 5. We're going to take.
Oh, he lost it there, didn't he? The C word thrown around at a council meeting because she thinks she's protecting some strange cast of people. It's absolutely deranged. Now, obviously, there's no justifying what he said or the way that he said it. But if he's got Tourette's, it happens. I've had it. I was doing some training years ago with a guy who had Tourette's, and I stood up and he said, "Fat bearded twat." It happens with people with Tourette's. You have to live with it. So she adjourns for people to calm down. Fair enough.
A 5-minute break, and I'd advise you get some advice, please, Councillor Malone.
I advise you take legal advice yourself.
We are still on public questions. I will just say, I'm not being sat in this chair for my own glory. I'm not sat here to advance anything in my own life.
Oh, you're kidding me. You're kidding me. You sit there preening like a peacock and then say you're not there for your own glory. You're there because you like the power it gives you.
Could have taken up crocheting. I'm not here to absorb abuse, nor a staff, verbal abuse. I'm not here to absorb aggressive glares, nudges, anything like that. I'm not here to absorb that, and I will.
Do you think she's going to mention microaggressions? It is possible. She doesn't.
Be tackling that, and that's exactly why I agreed to take chair. So I'm not having people shouting out at me, getting personal, staring, swearing, or calling me a CUNT because they don't agree with what I'm doing. If you feel that I'm not chairing adequately, you have the right to follow the complaints procedure, and you can do that. What you don't have the right to do is to start shouting and verbally abusing me because I'm sat here as chair, and I'm not going to be standing for it or sitting for it. Okay? We're not going to be discussing it any more than that. If people want to put complaints in, please feel free to follow our own policies. I'm not having it continue for the rest of the meeting. We shall now continue and go back to our public questions. Thank you. We don't need clapping either, but thanks. Okay, question from Jenny Dingsdale. So you've had a response. Could you ask a supplementary question? And that's not a speech, it's a question, please.
The time limit for supplementary questions is 3 minutes. You've not allowed either of my friends 3 minutes, so I ask that you allow me my time before interrupting me.
I will make it very clear that the reason that those people were cut off is about the language they were using.
There's nothing wrong with the
against
language
those
they were
people,
using.
and I'm chairing this meeting. So
About the language they were... What she's saying is, I don't like what you're saying, therefore I don't want to hear it. This is a democratic forum. This is not a front room with a couple of kids. This is a democratic forum. That's what she's saying. What you are saying, I do not like, therefore you cannot say it. Liberal Democrat.
I'm quite happy. If you want to make a complaint about it, that's fine. I'm asking you to not use similar language. Thank you.
Well, the response I had strikes me as yet another Lib Dem lie. Policies which endanger women by allowing men into their single-sex spaces are harmful. Policies such as the one referred to by Councillor Nuttall about Broadmeadow Leisure Centre, which says these men can go into whichever spaces they feel most comfortable in. Policies that compel the language of this cult, such as incorrect pronoun usage, are also harmful. Last week, the Lib Dems lost a legal case against one of their own for the awful discrimination that she faced because of her belief in reality over ideology. In this council, we've got Lib Dems chairing all the committees and into...
No, I'm sorry. You are here to ask a supplementary question. Your original question, I will read it out to remind you. I would like to know if this council has made any effort to correct harmful policies and plans influenced by Intercom or other trans activists, such as the creation of a changing village at Broadmeadow to be more trans inclusive, and if not, why not? You were given a response.
That was not
you
my
get
full
to ask
question.
a supplementary question. What you don't get to do is to sit there and hold court for 3 minutes.
Interesting. They don't want context, you see, because if you give context, then you have to answer the real question. So they don't want context. This is absolutely how these demagogues work. You can't have context, because if you give it context, they have to answer the question, and the reality of this becomes to the fore. You can't possibly allow context to be spoken.
You ask a supplementary question relating to your original question. If you have a question, please get to it.
In this council, we have Lib Dems chairing all the committees
Sorry, thank you very much.
overview and scrutiny.
I'm going to give you one last chance to ask your supplementary question.
I am asking my question.
It's got absolutely nothing to do with chairs and with council procedure.
It has everything to do with chairs and council procedures. Any attempt whatsoever, and their speech is stifled. This is stifling free speech in the name of an iatrogenic, child-harming cult.
It is to do with lies. My entire question has
was
been
about the changing...
Have you read my full question?
I've read your question.
Have you read my full question?
I've read the question.
I was assured that it was sent to people. That was not my full question.
Do you have a supplementary question?
I do. In this council, we have Lib Dems chairing all the committees and the overview and scrutiny committee, which seems to me like you are marking your own homework and giving yourself top marks. I therefore call on this council to arrange an independent review of your policies and plans to ensure that Teignbridge actually complies with the law.
The lady leaves the chamber.
We'll be adjourning whilst the lady leaves the chamber. She doesn't want to listen to what the lady has to say. This is Jenny, by the way. She doesn't want to listen to what Jenny has to say. She just wants to stop everything. We'll adjourn until the lady has left the chamber. Libs. Yep. Oh.
The doctrine of this cult.
Adjourning, thank you. We adjourn. I'm just going to get some advice, then we shall re-adjourn. Okay, Councillor George, you've had your light on.
Yes, I had my light on from before Councillor Malone spoke, and I was trying to make a point of order, which wasn't taken. My point of order, as much as I may agree or disagree with the public questions, I do not think it's within the remit of the chair of this council to decide how those questions are framed, and I would agree that it is censorship, it is breach of freedom of expression, and it's hugely concerning. I would rather this meeting hadn't spiralled in the way that it did today, but I could have told you 5 minutes in that's the way it was going. People in a community-led council want to be heard. That's all they want. They have no power but their voice. And I would implore you to allow people to speak and ask questions. Thank you.
Well said, Richard. That's exactly what she doesn't want to happen, Richard, I'm afraid. Exactly what she doesn't want to happen. God forbid that the entire edifice of trans should be examined in any way which would undermine the fact that it is simply men playing dress-up, confused kids and mentally ill people. But, you know, I'm sure the councillor will do herself, that is, you know, just being the lovely little authoritarian she is.
Thank you, Councillor Dawes. I appreciate that. But we also have a duty to protect vulnerable people as well.
And there she goes again. We have a duty to protect... What vulnerable people? This is a disgrace. This is a disgrace. She shouldn't be there. She shouldn't be there. The entire council needs looking at. There's something terribly wrong. Well, that's it. I'm quite stunned by it, actually, and I don't know whether you are, but I would imagine this is not something we would normally expect to see occurring. Let's get it out there. Let's share it. Let's let people see exactly what they're up to, because there's something terribly wrong. Okay. Thanks for watching. See you soon.